رمضان 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 يا حبيب رمضان.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم اللهم تسليما كثيرا. All praise due to Allah and His praise and blessings and peace be upon our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam, his family, his companions, and his followers until the day of judgment. I bear witness that Allah is the only one worthy of worship, and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his last and final messenger. I talked to you before about one of the things that I hope it will change in our life, in our community, in our society, which is the issue of domestic violence. Domestic violence on the rise. Domestic violence, the numbers are scary, unfortunately. And in so many times, these incidents of domestic violence will not be even reported. And it will not be documented. And the people who, the abusers, will not be held accountable. Even there is no laws in certain countries to protect those who are abused inside the house. Domestic violence directed to mainly wives, sometimes husband can be abused, and also toward children. And we learned that the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam never hit a woman with his hand ever, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, or a child. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, they're not the best among you, those who hit their wives. And he said, the best among you, the best to their wives, the best to their families. And we get to know that domestic violence can happen to any group of people. It's not restricted by demographic or social status or anything of that nature. It can happen in any race, white, black, Latinos, can happen to Muslims, non-Muslims, can happen to religious people, non-religious people, can happen to older in age or younger couples. It can happen basically to people who are educated, uneducated, rich, poor. It exists across the board because it's all about controlling and having to control others and to demonstrate power. And unfortunately, part of human nature that they transgress. إِنَّهُ كَانَ ظَلُومًا جَهُولًا. Human beings have ignorance in them and transgression. And that's why Sharia came to help us to control basically these, to control our emotions, to control our desires, to help us to control ourselves. Actually, Al-Islam protect us from ourselves, protect human from human. And one of the areas that Al-Islam came with so many rules and regulations in regard is the way how to have to treat your wife and to treat your husband and to deal with your children. And I said that unfortunately Muslim women can be exposed to domestic violence and stay as a victim sometimes more than non-Muslim women. And because sometimes it is basically a culture, and the culture justify that. The culture justify that the husband hit his wife. And if she talks, immediately people said, Abe, this is not right. You should not talk about your, this is what happened in the house, to stay in the house. It's not right way to a woman to talk ill of her husband. Don't tell your family, don't talk about that. She only can talk to his family, and his family obviously will cover up for him. That's basically the culture. Oh, my daughter, just stay with him. Good wife, should be patient, and all the kind of talk. Sometimes it's a bad habit. The bad habit that fathers make fun of their children. Bad habit, being sarcastic all the time. Breaking the woman's heart. It is basically sad when you see things like that. It is embedded in some cultures, unfortunately, in some of the Muslim countries. Also, worse than that, when people try to justify that by religion. I remember once I walked into somebody's house and I saw a whip in the middle of the house. And underneath of it, he wrote a hadith which suggests that the Prophet said, hang the whip in the middle of the house. It will make the people of the house behave well. And I told him this hadith is weak, is not authentic, and is not authentic hadith. And just what's the message that you try to do? You know, it reminded me of that guy who basically wrote for his wife, using the religion for demonstrating power and abusing others. It's one of the worst things to use the deen for your personal gain. He wrote for his wife in the kitchen, you know, the Prophet said, Allah loves it when you do something, you make it perfect. Just to hit on her. But she was smart, you know, she took that sign and she hung it somewhere else in the house. Anyway, so sometimes you use the hadith, women are deficient in their intellect, naqisatu aqlin wa deen, and their religion. And misusing the hadith, misquoting to justify basically his abuse towards women. And this is sad. Sometimes many Muslim women, especially immigrant women, Muslim women, they depend on their husband. They are on their husband's visa. So they are worried if they speak out, they will be kicked out of the house. They lose their status. They don't know the law. They don't know the language. They don't know where to go. There is no family support. There is no community support. So she's in her own. That's why she continued in this cycle, in this state, being abused and suffering from her husband's abuse, and she can get out of that. That's why it is so sad when you see that Muslim women can be receptive to violence more than others. That's why it's so important for us to stand up for our sisters, for the young kids. You know, a kid once called me, Sheikh, he said, Sheikh, I'm sick of my parents. They fight all the time. Now I have, you know, I dialed the police number and, you know, maybe every week twice. And I have to live with that. I've decided to leave my house. He's only 16 years old or 15 years old. And I need your help. He wants to get out. And many times he will be abused as well. How do we deal with cases like this? Number one, we should never, ever justify domestic violence. Ever. Number two, let's have the professional people help. You know, as an imam masjid, religious person, it doesn't give me the right to be a therapist or to deal with cases. I can give a religious advice, you know, and help them religiously through certain therapy if I have the education. But this needed professional help, especially if there is a physical abuse involved, or basically an emotional abuse that damage the wives or the children psychologically. One of the things that I'll tell any woman in this situation, make sure that you have a plan, secure plan to leave the house. There is cases, and many cases, where women ended up dead. Also, if you worry about your children specifically, make sure that you have a plan, you talk to someone, how are we going to get out of the house if we reach that level. I'll say it is so important as well to report this. And it doesn't matter, even if that led that person to be put in jail and he happened to be the father or the husband. If he is physically abused, and this is, because that's a dangerous. We cannot wait until a permanent damage happened or someone killed or severely injured, may Allah protect all of us, and after this said, oh, I wish I did. As a community, we should provide solutions, support, a group support, and we should provide shelters. We should help the women who are in this status and the children in this status. And we come together as a big family, stand up against the abuser. The Prophet ﷺ said, we should give victory to our brothers if they are victim or abuser. They said, victim we understand, Ya Rasulullah. But abuser, he said, to stop him from abusing. Let's have a quick break and we come back inshallah to continue our discussion. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I'll see you soon.
Ramadan, Ramadan, Ramadan ya Habib, Ramadan, 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 Ramadan ya Habib, Ramadan.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back. To continue our discussion about domestic violence. We're talking about some tips for solutions. And definitely one of the solutions is just to leave the abuser. You know what? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَإِمْسَاكٌ بِمَعْرُوفٍ أَوْ تَسْرِيحٌ بِإِحْسَانٍ. You hold her in good, or you let her live with ihsan, even much better wife than the way you kept her as a wife or as a husband. So enough is enough. And that's absolutely Islamically, and in any court that I can think of, in the Muslim world or anywhere in the world, will not ever tolerate domestic violence and will not tell anyone to stay in this situation. It's not safe, simply is not safe for you, physically, mentally. It doesn't have a future, actually, unless the person will change. How can this happen? By increasing the love for your wife, for your spouse. You know, have love, have mercy in your heart towards women. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, they're like, you know, in your home, like your prisoner. It doesn't mean that they are prisoner, but they are weak. Men are, generally speaking, physically more powerful, have more money. In many cases, they are the one who makes more money than women. And they have more power. So don't abuse your power and your status. Have a respect for your wife. Many of these cases happen because the person doesn't respect his wife. Make sure that you communicate. Find solution to the problem instead of basically solving the problems through physical abuse. Also, let's us as a community help by providing solutions, providing support, providing financial support, providing therapy, and talking to professionals to offer their help to the wives or to the husband who have been abused or to the children. Make sure that we teach our kids from early age to respect the opposite gender, to respect marriage, to respect women. To tell them from early age that using your hand and laying hand on a woman or a girl is something bad. Make sure that we teach our kids, not through words, but through our actions, that they see us, how we respect one another. Make sure that we actively pursue legal actions. And if we are in a country or a society where there is no legal consequences for domestic violence, let's lobby for that, work for that. I'm a big advocate for this. And I support any effort that it will be done towards that, towards ensuring the safety and the respect of the family inside the house. One of the main reasons for these problems, it is a communication problem. People don't know how to communicate with each other. That's why they end up violating one another. And most of the cases that I have seen in my life always goes back to this. Number one problem is communication, lack of good communication. And it's not easy to communicate, especially with someone became your spouse, sharing your life with, and maybe you didn't know before. And when it comes to communication, I want you to know the following point. What really, it doesn't matter what you say. What matters the most is how you're saying it. People are more moved by your body language, the tone of your voice, more than what you actually say. You might, if you look at the words by themselves, maybe they don't, not bad, not very bad. But the way you're saying it, the face, the anger, the face expression, the hand gesture that you have, the body language, you know, the threat that you make, that's what really matters the most. And that's how we communicate with each other as a human being. Body language basically send most of the message. Some researchers said what you say only represent maybe 12%. And the rest is the tone of your voice and your body language. And also when it comes to communication, we need to learn how to listen to the other party. Sometimes we hear them, but we're not listening. We're not trying to understand what they're saying, relate to their feelings. We just want to respond. We just want to defeat. It became like a debate. And basically, that's where people misunderstand each other. They don't listen to each other. They just talk at each other, not talking to each other. You know, when you communicate and you want to succeed in creating a rapport or basic successful conversation, don't say you. Say, I feel this and I feel that. I feel that you are angry, or you upset about this and this and that. Or you this and you that. Because if you say you, the other person became immediately defensive. You know, repeat what you think they said. It's so important that you do that, because many times I misunderstood the other person, especially when they're tense. So what you do, you know, I see that you're saying this and that. So if this is what you really your wife saying or your husband saying, he would say, yes, I did that. Or said, no, 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 I didn't mean that. Because sometimes we say something, we don't mean it. So when you repeat that, when you repeat the statement, you give them a chance to evaluate the statement, it's correct or not. Then you follow that by saying, what can I do to make it better? Ask. Many times we don't ask. Okay, you're angry about this. You know, I can see that you're saying this and this upset you. How can I make it better? That will inflate basically the tension immediately. Remember, it's not what you say, it's how you're saying it. One of the things that's also very important to basically bring us together is to always catch your spouse or your children doing something good. We're in a habit of catching our spouse doing something bad or wrong. Catch them doing something wrong, good, and praise them for it. That's reinforcing the good will eliminate the bad. One of the things that I want to say, whenever you always focus on bad and you catch them doing something bad, you became psychologically, basically, always think about them in a negative way. When you think of your wife, you think of your husband. But if you catch them doing something good, you basically frame your brain and you start looking at the person always in a positive manner. Do new things together. It's so fun. You know what? And something both of you enjoy, not only you. It involves both of you interacting with each other. Maybe go hiking together, walk together, cook together, you know, do social service together. Spending time and quality time is #1 reason for successful relationship. One other thing I want to say also about that it's important to have in conflict that can lead to domestic violence is the issue of timing. Many times you choose the wrong time to address the issue. Maybe the issue good and you use all these, you know, nice way of communication, but just the timing is not the right time. He just came back from work and you just start the conversation. I always suggest to give 15 to 30 minutes grace period. Let them, after 15 minutes, maybe you can start the conversation. Don't speak when the person's so stressed out. Have for auditing tomorrow, gonna deal tomorrow with the IRS, or he has a court appointment, or she's about to, you know, she's pregnant, or anything like something making the person so stressed. That's not the time. So hungry, so sleepy, tired, want to relax. No, just choose the right time. Don't ever start with negative points, with negative thoughts. Also, make sure that you start soft. And if you notice changing in your physiology or her physiology, make sure that you quickly stop. Take a deep breath and back off. You start raising your voice. You start raising her voice. Redness, you know, heavy breathing. Just calm down. End the conversation. If you go from that point on, it's bad. So this is something will help you to learn how to have us to basically inflate the tension so it will not be developed to domestic violence. Learn how to compromise. That's what marriage is all about. Be tolerant towards your spouse. As the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, if you don't like something in her, there's always other thing good. It's a package deal. There's no 100% perfect husband or perfect wife. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us success and to bring peace and mercy to our homes. I hope this is one of the changes that will happen in the month of Ramadan, that to change our home to be a home filled with love and mercy and compassionate, not a home that filled with fear and anger and violence. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
رمضان 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 يا حبيب رمضان